The last section that we're going to cover before we take our test on all of trigonometry is using law of sines and cosines and word problem application. So our first example, I'm letting you know it's a law of sines application, and I'll tell you in a second how I know. We have some campers, they want to find the distance across the lake, and that's F. And so if it helps you, we can decorate this by making a pretty blue lake so you can get the idea. And the measures of the angles as indicated in the distance from the flagpole to headquarters to be 400 meters. So from the angle between headquarters to the flagpole to the beach house is 110, and from the flagpole to headquarters and then to the beach house is 40. Now, what is the distance from headquarters to the beach house? So that is this. And so we want to find both F and H. And the reason why I know this is a law of sines is because we're given two angle measures and only one side length. If it were law of cosines, we would have either had all three side measures or two sides and the included angle. So if you remember, law of sines is going to be the sine of A over A equal to the sine of B over B equal to the sine of C over C. So I am going to label this as A, B, and C to help me out, which then means that F is really A and H is really B. So now I'm going to look at this and say, well, you know, I don't have all three measures. I do need to get angle C here. So that means that the measure of angle C is equal to 180 minus 110 minus 40. Well, 180 minus 110 is 70, minus 40 is 30 degrees. So we know that that is 30 degrees, so I will label that as such. And now we can go ahead and find F. So we can take the sine of 30 degrees, put that over 400, and that's going to be equal to find F, the sine of 40, because it's the angle opposite F, and we'll put it as over F. So now we can cross multiply. So I'm going to bring my work over here. And so we're going to have F times the sine of 30, and that's going to be equal to 400 times the sine of 40, which means if we divide both sides by the sine of 30, you will get your answer for F. So coming over to the calculator, I'm going to take 400 times the sine of 40 degrees, and that gives me about 257, and I'm going to divide that by the sine of 30 degrees, and that gives me that F is equal to 514.2 meters. Now to find H, we have that we're still going to, I'm going to use C still because that's going to help me out with making this cleaner. That means still that the sine of 30 degrees over 400 is going to be equal to, now we need to use the sine of 110 over H. So same thing, we're going to have that H times the sine of 30 is going to be equal to 400 times the sine of 110. Divide both sides by the sine of 30. And when we put that into the calculator, we're going to take again 400 times the sine of 110 degrees, which gives us about 376. We're going to divide that by the sine of 30 degrees. And that gives me an answer of 751.8 meters. For our second example, this is a law of cosines application. We have 3 lifeguard stands positioned as shown below. And the lifeguards would like to have a buoyant line that would run from stand 1 to stand 3 for non-swimmers. We want to know how long that would have to be. And the reason why I know this is law of cosines is because I have 2 side lengths with the included angle. So if you recall, law of cosines is going to be that A is equal to the giant square root of b squared plus c squared minus 2bc cosine of A. So if we go ahead, that means that the line is going to be A equals the large square root of 85 squared plus 90 squared, yes, that's a 90, minus 2 times 85 times 90 times the cosine of 140 degrees. So if we put this into the calculator, we've got the square root of 85 squared plus 90 squared minus 2 times 85 times 90 times the cosine of 140 degrees. Close off those parentheses and you get 164.5 yards for the length of that line. What I want you to go ahead and do now is for A, use the law of cosines, and B, use the law of sines. To complete these 2 problems, enter them into Edpuzzle and bring your questions with you to class tomorrow.